Previously, on the Fan of History, Shalmaneser III of Assyria stood on Mount Animus, looking out over the Cilician plain and contemplated invading Anatolia in what is today Turkey. Also, Jehu, the first Jewish king of Israel, took power in Israel and killed a lot of people. Welcome to the Fan of History. I am the Fan of History, and we are going to talk about what happened in the 830s BC. This will be one long episode. I'm just a fan of history. I'm not an historian. I want to learn. So if I say something that's wrong, please tell me in the show notes. So, Shalmaneser III is still Ashur's chosen king. The Assyrian Empire is the strongest state in the Near East. Shalmaneser is the highest priest and the king of Assyria. He has ruled since 859 BC, and he has extended the conquest of his father, Ashurnasirpal II. And everyone has stood against him, the alliances, they have crumbled. So Shalmaneser is more powerful than he has ever been. And in 839 BC, he directs his wrath against Q. Q is located in what is today Turkey. You see it on the map there quite clearly. He crosses the Euphrates, going through the states of the Neo-Hittite kingdoms. They are all his subjects. He calls him the king of the Kati. And they pay tribute and provide auxiliary forces. Q is invaded. Shalmaneser plunders some cities. He erects stela, stones with inscriptions, at the beginning and end of the country, whatever that means. But King Kate of Q is still in power, so the campaign is probably not decisive. Shalmaneser might have been invited to protect Samal, and that might be the reason he is invading Q. But there is also the thing that Q is like the only kingdom left that isn't obeying him in the area. So if you look at the map, you can see right east of Q there is Sinkirli. That's Samal. And the king of Samal, Kilamuva, he is no friend of Q. And Kilamuva has actually erected a stele too, that you see now before you here. And it's a very rare Neo-Hittite inscription. So Kilamuva claims that he hired the king of Assyria to protect him against the rulers of Q. And you seldom get the reasons why the Assyrians go on campaign if it's not a rebellion. So this might have been a vassal, a loyal vassal. Kilamuva, the king of Samal, calls in Shalmaneser to do battle. And this inscription is long and very interesting. Kilamuva blames his predecessors for not doing anything useful, but that he, Kilamuva, is doing good things for Samal. The next year, Shalmaneser fights Aram Damascus. This will be the last time Shalmaneser invades the west to the south. So you see the Assyrian Empire to the upper right, and then Aram Damascus. The Royal Assyrian Army goes on yearly campaigns every year, and this year they invade Aram Damascus. The Phoenician cities that you see to the upper left, Byblos, Tyre and Sidon, pay tribute to Shalmaneser, as is their custom. Hazael, the king of Damascus, loses several cities to the Assyrians, but there is no decisive result, and Hazael remains the king of Aram Damascus. But the king of Tyre, Mattan I, at some point, and some king of Tyre, makes an arrangement with Shalmaneser III. Because the Assyrians are traders, and the Phoenicians are even more traders. So Shalmaneser says, okay, I will let your cities get away with kid glove treatment if you provide me a lot of stuff. I need this and that. And in order to meet the Assyrian requirements, Phoenicia has to increase its colonization process. Normally, the Phoenicians colonized the Mediterranean by just trading, but now they have to establish forts and actually claim area. And this has already happened on Cyprus. And we know that there is a colony in Spain already. But at some point there are colonies founded in Sardinia, that you can see on the map here, and in Italy. And the colonies in Italy are founded with the approval of the Villanovans. The Villanovans are frequent trading partners of the Phoenicians. All these new colonies are founded on strategic points, such as peninsulas or islands. They have natural harbors and they're easy to defend. There's also a colony at some point in Utica in Africa. The dates of these colonies are very hard. You would think that the colony in Spain should be much later than Africa, Sardinia and Italy. And normally you consider these colonies to be founded in the 8th century BC, but as we already know, due to recent finds, that the Phoenicians actually were in Spain already. These colonies are probably already founded, but the increase in Phoenician power in the colonies comes from this time, and it's due to pressure from Shalmaneser, king of Assyria. Over to Egypt. In 837 BC, Osorkon II, who ruled Egypt for 35 years, dies, and at his death he only rules northern Egypt, what is called Lower Egypt, the Delta. His grandson Takelot II rules independently as the high priest of Amun in Thebes in the south. But despite this, Osorkon II was one of the stronger rulers of the 22nd dynasty. They found his tomb in 1939. Pierre Montet, one of the most famous Egyptian archaeologists of all time, found the tomb. It was plundered, but the riches that remained after the plunderers took what they wanted were so rich that the conception of the 21st and the 22nd dynasty and their wealth had to be changed. These dates from Egypt are very uncertain and contested compared to Assyrian dates of the period. Osorkon is replaced by Shoshenq III. He rules northern Egypt from Tanis, just like Osorkon did, but he's no son of Osorkon. And we really don't know who he is. But he marries Shespast Peru, Osorkon II's daughter. And as I told you before, power in Egypt comes by marrying a daughter of the pharaoh. So this is not unusual, but we don't know his origin, we don't know his parents, we don't know a lot about him. But he will rule the north of Egypt for a long time. Takelot II is still around as the high priest of Amun in Thebes. And it seems then that Takelot II's father was Nimlot-Si, who is Osorkon's son. So that makes Takelot II Shoshenq's nephew. But this is all very confusing. It will be a little clearer when Takelot II's son appears, Osorkon III. But that's a little while in the future, because he has written a chronicle of his life, and that chronicle survives. So we will use Osorkon III as our hero when he appears. But his first event from the chronicle is in the next show, in the 820s. In 837 BC, Shalmaneser III actually invades Turkey. He invades Anatolia, and this is an unparalleled undertaking for an Assyrian king. No Assyrian king has been to Tabal. When I started this show and read Assyrian history thoroughly, I thought that Shalmaneser did not break much new ground, and that he was a lesser king than his father Ashurnasirpal II. And I still think he is, but I am impressed by everything that Shalmaneser did. And he definitely ranks among the great kings of the Assyrians. But he's not dead yet, he will do more. The royal army marches through the land of the Kati, picks up troops, supplies. They pass through Melid, goes across the Anti-Taurus, and onto the Anatolian plateau. And King Tuatte of Tabal and his son Kiki and 20 kings of Tabal, they submit. They've heard of the Assyrians, they see the Assyrian army, and they're just, no way, we're not fighting them. They pay their tribute, they join up with Shalmaneser. And so does everybody else close nearby, except Q. So Shalmaneser moves the royal army south and invades Q from another direction. And the next year he does pretty much the same thing. Tabal submits again, he attacks Q again. So let's move to Mexico. In Mexico the Olmecs are still around, centered on La Venta. We don't know what they wrote. And I have a random fact for you. They had an elite class, they were not an egalitarian society. They had luxury items, they were made by jade, obsidians and magnetite. This stuff came from distant locations, so there was a great trading network surrounding Olmec civilization. And in an earlier show you can see some of the Olmec art, so check that out. In 835 BC, Assyria goes east instead. There's a campaign every year, and this time it's time to go east. And it's because in 843 BC, Shalmaneser defeated the Kattite kingdom of Namri. If you look at the map, it's hard to see, but it's to the lower right to the right of the Assyrian Empire name there is Namar. And that's the kingdom of Namri, ruled by the Kassites, who have defected from Babylon. And in 843 BC, Shalmaneser put King Jansu on the throne of Namri. But Namri has stopped paying tribute because he heard that Shalmaneser is fighting in the west. So Shalmaneser has to go east in 835 BC. And King Jansu flees to the mountains. The Assyrians burn all the villages and towns. And then somebody gives him away, and Shalmaneser takes Jansu prisoner to Assyria. And when this often happens, a foreign king defeated is taken to Assyria, and we never hear what happens to them. So I don't know what happens to them. Maybe they are like hostages and kept around for banquets to throw eggs at, or I don't know what they do, but this is right. This is in territory that is formally claimed by Babylon, but it's now ruled by the Kassites. So what does Babylon think of this? Well, Marduk, zakir, shumi, the king of Babylon, owes his rule to Shalmaneser, so he is okay with this. So let's talk about Marduk, zakir, shumi. He has lost the Kassites in Namri. The Chaldeans in the southern marches of Babylon are also quite independent at this point. And we see that this is a weak rule compared to his father, Nabu-aplu-iddina. But Marduk zakir shumi will remain in power until 819 BC, and we have a couple of inscriptions and proof of his existence. There is a seal that the king has presented to the cult statue of Marduk in the Temple of Babylon that comes down to us. There is a grant of a great house to a talented scribe. There is also a record that Marduk zakir shumi can't go to Borsippa for 17 years because he has a religious duty to do something in Borsippa, and he can't get there because the country is so much in chaos and turmoil, and Borsippa is not far from Babylon, so this is really bad. So despite the good reign of Nabu-aplu-iddina, Babylon is falling back into the Dark Age. And someone who is not doing that is Urartu. To the north of Assyria, the Nairi Sea that you see in this map is Lake Van in Turkey today. Sarduril becomes the king, and we talked about his predecessor last time, so I won't go into that now. The capital is moved to Tushpa, the star on the map, and there's an enormous mountain fortress built at Tushpa, designed to withstand Assyrian invasion. Because all the time that Urartu is a young kingdom now, and during its entire reign, Shalmaneser has been there and beaten them up regularly in order for them not to grow powerful. But they are still growing powerful, and they are branching out to the east and west and sort of forming a hat on the map over Assyria. So everything Assyria has is threatened. Heartland Assyria is threatened, and the gains in the west are definitely threatened. Even Q and Tabal is not outside of the reach of Urartu, and Urartu is growing stronger every year. But Shalmaneser is not done with Q. In 834 BC, he attacks Q again, and King Kate of Q is still around, and he has been around for a long time, and he's still defying Shalmaneser. The Kati of northern Syria, the area through which Shalmaneser has to go to get to Q, pay tribute, provide troops. The Assyrians invade and they sack Timur, the capital of Q. I think that's Adana on this map, but I'm not certain. And on the way back, Shalmaneser goes into the Bitagusi, an Assyrian tribe that submitted in the 850s, and puts a royal Assyrian garrison at Muru, their city, to their great dismay. This attack severely weakened Q, but King Kati is still around and is still ruling Q. In Peru, the Chavin are around Chavin de Huantar. We don't know what they're doing. Their high point is still in the future, but this week's random fact will be that they had no contact with the Olmecs, but jaguars are still the most sacred animals to the Chavin, just like with the Olmecs. In 833 BC, Shalmaneser makes the final invasion of Q. And Q is now too weak to resist. The victory comes easily. Kate is captured and taken to Assyria, and we don't know what happens to him. But his brother Kiri is installed as the vassal king of Shalmaneser, and Q has been fighting Shalmaneser for 25 years. So how did a tiny kingdom such as this fight Assyria for so long? Well, it's probably because it's in the mountains, and the mountains are natural fortress, and this is indicative of how hard it would be for Assyria to hold Urartu. Urartu is Q times 100, and it would be very hard for Assyria at this time to conquer Urartu. That's why Urartu is so dangerous. But now there will be a major change in Assyria, and the great age of Ashurnasirpal II and Shalmaneser III, 50 years of victories, is coming to an end. But first we need to talk about the main character of our last episode. Jehu, king of the Jews, king of Israel. He threw out all the Phoenician gods from Israel. Remember, he killed all the priests of Baal and Jezebel last time. But for some reason, he still allows gold bulls at Bethel and Dan. These bulls are worshipped, and they have been worshipped for quite some time. And God must not be pleased with him. Jehu also claims to be of the house of David. And as Judah is not archaeologically attested in this time, it might be that Jehu not only invented Solomon and David, but also invented the early history of Judah. The first archaeological evidence I found is from 733 for Judah, but I'm going to introduce Judah as a kingdom earlier than that. We don't have any news about Hazael of Damascus either from this decade, other than the war we just talked about. But we know that Hazael and Jehu is fighting. They can't keep their peace. They both murdered their predecessors, but Damascus and Israel is just destined to fight. So there is fighting, and it is mentioned in the Bible. Meanwhile, in China, the Gonghi Regency rules China. King Li, the tyrant, is in exile. The Count of Gong leads the regency, and they are educating Li's son Chuan to be a good king. And we shall see if Chuan actually becomes a good king. I read a whole book about early Indian history, and it's just so hard. So I don't have anything to say about India. it comes down in oral tradition, and there are no dates. It's entirely super confusing, and if you can help me with dating some events from Vedic India, please do so. Well, it's time to talk about the situation in Assyria and the major change I mentioned. So let's talk about Shalmaneser III. This is the inscription from the bronze gates of Balavat. And I wanted to give you this inscription because it sort of gives a picture of this golden age of Assyria.
I am Shalmaneser III, the great and mighty king, king of the universe, king of Assyria, son of Ashur-Nasirpal, king of the universe, king of Assyria, and grandson of Tutukolti-Urta, king of the universe, king of Assyria, the powerful hero who in the 4 regions of the world gives no quarter, who conquers rebellion, to whose hand all the regions of the earth are entrusted, who crushes those who do not submit to Ashur, the mighty flood, in whose hands Ashur has set the ends of the lands, king of the regions of earth, who is covered with splendor, who is fearless in battle, under the yoke of whose dominion mighty and ruthless kings, as far as the setting sun, have bowed. Shalmaneser, the rightful ruler, priest of Ashur, the powerful.
So, this guy is pretty important. We need to talk about the state of his kingdom. So, this is a map actually showing Assyria in 824 BC. So, it's pretty accurate for 833 BC. It is a bit optimistic. You see the Urartu capital, Tushpa. Actually, Shalmaneser has been there several times, so they count it as the empire. But otherwise, this is a pretty good map of the empire. Seems to go a bit far to the northwest as well, but this is bigger than the Middle Assyrian Empire. And remember that Adad-nirari II, Tukulti-Ninurta II, Ashur-Nasirpal II, and Shalmaneser set out to restore the Middle Assyrian Empire. And those days are gone now. This empire is bigger. 2 super powerful kings have ruled this kingdom for 50 years. It was in 883 BC that Ashur-Nasirpal II succeeded his father, who was very powerful too. And Shalmaneser III has added to the empire. But cracks are beginning to show. Ashur-Nasirpal II put eunuchs in charge of the 12 provinces. But this system has failed. And there are now powerful nobles with influence in the provinces, and there are powerful nobles with influence in Kala, in the capital. The capital is once again Kala, and Shalmaneser is building in Kala. He flirted with Nineveh, and he was in Nineveh for a time, but he has now returned to Kala. And we are now going to meet some of the 3 most powerful men in Assyria. But look for a second at this map and consider that this could have been the high watermark of the empire. The empire has been around for 80 years. It could have still have been a good piece of history. And it would have been, this is the high watermark of the early Neo-Assyrian Empire. And it would be the high point of all of this if it was not for one man who comes down to us, known as the Assyrian. So, let's talk about these 3 powerful men, and none of them are the Assyrian. But first is Dayyan Ashur. He's the Turtanu, the field marshal, the chief of the army. But the Assyrian king always leads the royal army. So the Turtanu is powerful, but not as powerful as he will be. And he has been the field marshal for quite some time. There are theories that Dayyan Ashur has actually ruled Assyria and taken power from Shalmaneser in rebellion, and that Shalmaneser just has been his puppet king. But those theories can be dismissed, I think. I'll include a link in the show notes if you remind me and point you in the direction of those theories. But I see Dayyan Ashur as a friend and trusted underling of Shalmaneser III, But he is about to become the most powerful non-king in Assyrian history. There is also sons of Shalmaneser. There is Assur-Danin-Pal. He is an elder son of Shalmaneser III, possibly the eldest son. He is a popular warrior, and the Assyrians like him. And I personally see him, very little is known, but I see him as an incarnation of his grandfather. He might be the second coming of Ashurnasirpal II, that's why I'm using his picture. And he does not approve of Dayyan Ashur's immense influence over Shalmaneser III. And this is a violent man, and for some reason, and maybe because he's violent, that's just me theorizing, Shalmaneser has not designated him as the heir, but he has designated his younger son, Shamshi-Ramman, as the heir. This guy is supposed to become the king of Assyria. He's wiser, but he's not as popular as his elder brother. In 832 BC, Dayyan Ashur attacks Urartu. And here we have Shalmaneser III's great mistake. And something Ashurnasirpal II never did. Shalmaneser grew old and weak. If you look at the record of his father Ashurnasirpal II, Ashurnasirpal is just strangling lions with his hand, conquering, winning everything, and then suddenly one day he's just gone. He's just dead. But he never shows any sign of weakness. But this is a major sign of weakness. In the words of the great king himself,
I gave orders and sent Dayyan Ashur, Tortanu, the wise chief of my army and camp.
So Dayyan Ashur goes north to Urartu without Shalmaneser, who stays in Kala. And the reason to attack Urartu now was that the west was pacified, and that it's always a good time to attack. Remember, that's Shalmaneser's strategy. It's always a good time to attack when there's a new king. And Dayyan Ashur fights Sarduril of Urartu across the river Arsanias. I have no idea where that is. And he claims a victory, but that's all that happens. So it might have been a stalemate. And Tushba is not even attacked. And there's no great sweep through Urartu like Shalmaneser used to do. But Dayyan Ashur is now the most powerful non-king in the history of Assyria, like I said. In 831 BC, King Mattan I of Tyre dies, and he was very young when he became the king. He ruled Tyre from 840 to 832 BC. Tyre is the main Phoenician power center, and he's succeeded by his son, whose name has come down to us as Pygmalion, but he was probably Pymayaton. There are a lot of legends about Pygmalion. I do not use legends for this show, but it's hard, very hard to tell this story without using the legends. One question I immediately have is that if Mattan was so young, how did he have two grown children? But he has assigned his elder daughter, Dido, and his son, Pygmalion, as the two co-rulers of Tyre. And Dido has married Aserbas, who is Mattan's younger brother. And Aserbas is incredibly rich. And the people, they don't want a queen. They want a king, even if he's a boy. So even if Pygmalion is too young, the people want him as king. And Pygmalion wants sole rule of Tyre and of all Phoenicia. And we'll talk more about that next time. In 831 BC, there's also a rebellion in Pattin. It's Pattin on the map here to the west. King Lubarna II has been a loyal vassal ever since he was conquered by Shalmaneser of Assyria. But he's assassinated, and a usurper, Suri, claims the throne of Pattin. So Dayyan Ashur marches the royal army to Pattin. And when the royal army stands outside Kumulna, the capital, you can see on the map here, the frightened inhabitants hands over the rebels and pay tribute. And Dayyan Ashur erects victory stela, booty is taken, and a new king is appointed in Pattin. Meanwhile, in Europe, there are the Villanovans trading with Phoenicians. Greek culture is most going forward on the island of Euboea. And Chalcis and Lefkandi, if Lefkandi is indeed old Eretria, are strong cities in Euboea. Other important early city-states are Knossos, Athens, Miletus and Argos. And Knossos is, as you know, on Crete. The Greeks are all over the Ionian Sea ever since the Bronze Age collapse. And they're also on Cyprus. Actually, every kingdom on Cyprus, there might be 9 or 12, are ruled by people that originally came from Greek, Achaean and Ionian Greeks, except for the Phoenician colony. In 830 BC, Dayyan Ashur attacks Urartu again, and we don't know a lot. Kubushka is mentioned as a target, and that's not very far into Urartian territory. So it seems that Urartu is resisting the power of Assyria quite efficiently. Next time, we'll talk about the 820s BC. Those will be the twilight years of Shalmaneser III. We will see who will rule Assyria after Shalmaneser dies of old age. Will it be Dayyan Ashur, who will then end the ancient line of kings? He has all the power right now. Will it be Assur-Danin-Pal, the violent king, or Shamshi-Ramman, the wiser king? We will also talk about the Black Obelisk of Assyria, a propaganda monument that stands in the British Museum today about the powerful rule of Shalmaneser III. I will release this to you on August the 18th of 2014. Please like, share and subscribe. Discuss the show with me on YouTube or on Facebook. And thank you for watching.